This is a very modest research project by a very modest team of political science students at Beirut St. Joseph University, trying to understand a huge, really huge problem. After cyber warfare on the web, we decided to approach a new context in the dark side of the web. We tried to understand how, in the context of a civil war, opponents turn web applications into deadly weapons to gain strategic advantage on the ground. There was a lot of talk about the Arab Spring and how suddenly people fighting for their rights against political oppression turned rock throwers, like you can see on these pictures, into modern, connected freedom fighters the West can finally relate with. Okay. Social media on the web did actually play a very important role in organizing protests, mobilization, international awareness, and spreading of news and images on what was really going on in Tunisia, Egypt, or Syria. But surprisingly, this effect of the web did not lead to the positive developments in Syria. Okay, maybe there's like some sort of a subliminal message into this picture, okay? Okay, so we got rid of this one, this one, and this one. Okay. So let's go serious, serious, sorry. So, no, I mean, it's a very sad subject, so it's better if we make a few jokes. Our main understanding of the problem are two reasons that go with the co-constitution effect. The web shapes society and society shapes the web. The web ecosystem in Syria is completely different from other Arab countries that I've been talking about before. And timing, knowledge, technical assets were not in favor of the dynamics of protests. So if you look at the Syrian web ecosystem since 2000, the date of the introduction of the internet in Syria, it was heavily controlled by the state. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Wikipedia, and a lot of Western medias were not allowed on the Syrian internet, on Syrian web. So it's a very difficult context for cyber activism. The political context first is very difficult. The dictatorship in Syria is very present. It's very in everyday life. The Ba'ath Party is in every section of social life and private life of people. So it's very difficult for cyber activism to fight against this. The education system is highly controlled. So the training of engineers or web designers is heavily controlled by the government, and they know the people by their names. There is no free access to Western media in most part of Syria and in the time too. And the economic system has no private sector. It's what I call the crypto-socialism system, a socialist system. Devices, access, IT companies, ISPs, the entire internet ecosystem is owned and controlled by the repressive state apparatus, police and family members of the Assad clan. So what I will show today is just a few examples of what we found. Because there is so much information that we identified, and we still have so much to go through. But I will give a few examples of how it looks like. In 2001, after the fall of Ben Ali and the first big problems for Mubarak, after months of peaceful protest in Syria, the al-Assad family decided to give to Syrians free access to social media. Everything that was forbidden since 2000 was suddenly free access for everybody. Anybody could open a Facebook account or go on YouTube and change things in Wikipedia. And this marks the beginning of the first asymmetric civil war on the web. And this is something we are documenting in real time, and it's still going on. So, on the protester side, we have classic actions that we found in every mobilization online, as seen in Egypt and Tunisia. People were starting blogs, uploading YouTube videos, creating Facebook groups, tweeting real-time during demonstrations, and smuggling of digital content through the borders of like Lebanon, as it was seen in Iran at the time of the same problems in Iran. But the protesters, the cyber activists, were lacking of experience. They didn't know about those social media. They didn't have access to those social medias for so long that they were lacking of experience. Digital contents were very hard to identify and verify, and a lot of deceptive content was published because it was published then filtered. So it was very difficult to know what was true and not. And as people were not used to using Facebooks and those things, they had bad strategies on anonymity on social networks, which leads to the problem that I will talk about in the next slide. And so those problems led to bad results into their mobilization. The net activism was very separated from the street. The street people were not using the social network, so it was just a bunch of people from the intelligentsia who had access to those things. So there was a complete separation between what was going on online and what the protest on the street, which was not the case in Egypt. And there was a lot of bad coordination also in the organization and mobilization of protests, which leads to infiltration, as you know, in this kind of systems. So on the regime side, they took decisive advantages by full control of access and content on the web, by proxies and all those devices that were used by the repression apparatus in Syria. A lot of experienced people in Syria, engineers, web designers, web programmers, were actually employees of the state. So they were in danger of doing things, and so they were working for state institutions. And you will see that it has some impact on the situation. And of course, there's a massive repressive apparatus on the ground in Syria. A joke said that maybe 99% of the population is a spy. So we have police, we have spies, we have members of the Ba'ath party. Everybody's spying everybody. So it's very difficult to mobilize in those situation. And this is one example of what happened in Syria, what I call the trap. Opening social media allowed the police to identify group members, their networked friends, and their families. So opening the social media web in Syria allowed the police system to open the door like a trap, let people in, and close the doors. And so people were trapped inside, and as most of the social networks are based on connections and links and friends and things like this, it was pretty easy for the police to identify members of Syrian revolution groups and things like this. So what they did is login password information was obtained under physical and psychological pressure, especially for people abroad, Syrians living abroad. Their families were threatened inside and arrested and tortured. They used a lot of false security certificates to capture private information on social networks like Facebook, what we call the man-in-the-middle attacks. And for example, in May 2011, some right activist groups documented the arrest of 15 famous bloggers in Syria, and their interrogation leads to 1,200 arrests of people just in Damascus. And on the other hand of the repression, there was this very original thing that was only in Syria. It's called the Syrian Electronic Army. It's a pro-government cyber activists recruited by the security apparatus, mostly members of the Ba'ath party and the Assad family. And they had their own hacking school called the Syrian Hacker School, and it was related to the Syrian Computer Society, which is also a member of the Internet Society. It's funny. So what did they do, the Syrian Electronic Army? They identify users on social network and report to authorities, of course, for arrests. They spread and promote government propaganda contents on social networks, on YouTube especially. And they do the defacement attacks. In 2011, 122 domains were attacked, including BBC, Harvard, and Al Jazeera websites. They created fake accounts on Facebook and YouTube to gather people and gather information about these people. And I don't want to go into that, but they did a lot of virus and denial of service attacks on different websites and different internet access in Europe and even in America. So those are like small examples of how they hacked the Harvard University homepage. And you see the cool picture of the dictator. And also here on the BBC News, some information that the councillors in Kent, I think in England, website was hacked after Twitter. So they were like very present on social networks and punishing everybody who was against the Syrian government. So our first elements of conclusion that we found. First of all, it's an asymmetric civil warfare on the web, and I think it's the first example in history of such a situation. We had a very hard time to trace and report and document what we found. It's spread around the internet. There are no medias in Syria, so it's very difficult to relate what's going on, and numbers and everything has to be verified according to different reports. There's a lot of misleading and ambiguous content. I don't know if you heard about the story of the gay girl of Damascus. Who did? Heard the story? Yeah. This Scottish, I think, guy who wrote a blog about the life. He created a blog about the life of a lesbian girl living in Damascus and reporting about what was going on in Syria. And actually, everything was fake and wrong, and it did a lot of harm to mobilization and to protesting content on the web. And so we have a lot of questions for web science in this situation. First of all, it's very important to understand the web, the impact of the web in a particular context. Web in Syria is not like web in America. Okay, it's completely different. It's the same tools, the same applications, but the usage, the people, the way it works, and the way people can do things with those social networks or applications is very different and very particular. And I don't know if somebody will bring up the same context in North Korea or Afghanistan or places like this. What is the responsibility, and we have people from Yahoo here, what is the responsibility of web application owners who know what's going on their platforms, especially YouTube, especially Facebook? They know that those things are happening, and what do they do? Is there a way they can do something about it? And the final question would be how to make the web a safer place for freedom. It sounds pretty obvious for all of us that the web is a great invention, and it's bringing a lot of positive externalities to the society. But here is an example that the web can be a deadly weapon, and we should maybe ask ourselves as web scientists if we can do something about it to protect the web users. Okay, so just a few words about our sources, because it's not so obvious where we got all the information. There are a couple of reports by think tanks, especially the InfoWar Monitor and the Electronic Frontier Foundation, who are pretty fair in their observations. We have, of course, lots of diplomacy think tanks that produce some information about that. We have specialized forums where we can find traces of actions, especially technical actions like on cyber defense and hackers community. And we did some interviews with researchers in Syria, and I don't want to give their names here because there may be some spies in the room. So, okay, so this is it. Thank you, and this is our website if you want to know more about this research.
Thank you very much, Stephane.